Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jen Rogers, and today we will explore how businesses can manage costs during these increasingly expensive and volatile times that we are all living through. Joining me for this conversation is Amy Steele Vanden-Eykel. She's Chief Marketing Officer at Staples Inc. Amy, it's so great to see you, and we have a really good conversation teed up. But before we start, I want to remind everyone that's just come in, we want to hear from you. Use the text chat to the right of your screen. You can post questions there. You can engage in the discussion with us. Amy's got a ton of knowledge, so we can really harness that if you guys put questions in there as well, and not just me. So we'll incorporate that as much as we can into our chat today. Also a reminder, go and answer the poll question. It's in the poll tab there. If you haven't already done that, because that could be instructive too for our conversation. So let's get started. Amy, welcome so much. I just want to have you set the stage for us. Give us a sense of the challenges that businesses are facing today and how Staples can help small business.
Great. Hey, Jen, I'm psyched to be here. Thank you for having me. So to answer your question, I'm going to take a slight sidetrack and just let everyone know why we know. So why do I have that knowledge that you just mentioned? We work with 6 million businesses, 75% of the Fortune 100, and we do easily 100 customer research studies each year. And our purpose is to be a trusted partner for businesses. The company was founded on this premise. So we've been learning alongside day to day with our customers for decades. So with that said, I mean, obviously, businesses are facing a ton of challenges right now, from retaining employees during the Great Resignation, learning how to create culture and collaborate in a hybrid working environment, or giving those same employees a reason to come back to the office. And of course, obviously predicting what customers need in a world where their needs are just simply constantly changing. But I'm going to hone in on a couple specific ones: inflation and supply chain disruptions, which I know the audience has been talking about already a fair bit today. Those are the subject of our discussion as well. So you've heard the experts say it. Inflation is at a 40-year high. And like all of us, small businesses are facing increased cost because of several economic factors all happening at the same time. So it's the classic scenario that we learned in Economics 101. Demand is outpacing supply. Demand has risen significantly because there's strong job and wage growth, but there are pandemic-related supply chain issues exacerbated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In other words, we can't get products made or shipped fast enough to satisfy all of that demand. And all of this leads to a spike in costs, which can be particularly hard on small businesses.
So, I mean, I think just looking at the chat here, I know a lot of people are feeling that, and we saw that earlier, on the main stage, looking at the data coming out, sort of this pessimism that small businesses feel, specifically, I think, around this inflationary environment. So what are the solutions here? I mean, how can a small business manage their costs given everything that you just laid out?
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this conversation has more to do with ideas and things small businesses can do based on our interactions with our customers, because I think the small businesses that might be participating today are feeling all of those challenges, and now it's about like, okay, but what do I do in the face of that? So I mean, very, very broad strokes here. There's 3 main ways. One, I wouldn't recommend. It's the do nothing approach and just simply absorb it. 2 is raise prices for customers, certainly option. Or there's a third, which I know small businesses are likely looking into as well, which is just more effectively managing costs.
Right. I mean, and this actually goes to the poll that we have up right now. And I just want to check on, what we're seeing there. And like right now, we have the most votes for that idea of like thoughtfully managing costs. Probably the hardest part to do as well.
Yes.
We only have 1 vote. I don't know who you are. One person whose business is inflation proof. Not sure what they're in, but we've got,
that's great.
That's good. Yeah, I don't know, liquor. Of the 8 votes, 21% were actually seeing absorbing costs, 31% raising prices, but 44% thoughtfully managing those costs. I guess, what exactly does that look like? Like, what kind of examples are you seeing from small businesses and how they can effectively and thoughtfully manage costs? Because it's really an equation, right? I mean, you go too high, you scare people off.
Right.
If you go too low, it's not great for you.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to steer away from like very traditional responses like find waste in the P&L or implement a hiring freeze. I mean, those are options and those are things that the audience should look into, no question. But I thought what we could do today is focus on some things that we are working on with our customers that might be unique ideas, just sort of spark thoughts. So one is consolidating spend with a partner that can offer competitive pricing across all sorts of the things that you buy. It typically relies on a partner that has the size and the scale to offer a wide variety of the things that you need. It also relies that size and scale helps that partner to negotiate on your behalf to get good prices. So, for example, we give customers visibility to what they'd save if they bought additional categories from us. So like, let's say we have a customer, they're buying office supplies from us, and we'd say, hey, relative to other customers that look like you, that present like you, that have firmographic elements like you, you're buying fewer cleaning supplies from Staples. And if you consolidated that spend with us, we anticipate you'd save X dollars. We give a very specific amount of savings. So that also leads me to what we call rogue spend. So the rogue spend, they're typically transactions that take place off of contracts. So that means they're not strategically sourced and they're done outside of procurement procedures. They're usually very small individual transactions. And because they're not on contracts, where contracts have that negotiated lower price, they're typically more expensive than would have been if that person had used the strategically sourced vendor. And then the person expenses the item or the items, which takes time of the team who actually has to process the expenses as well, side note. So while they're small transactions, they add up. There was a study done a couple of years ago, and that study said that rogue spend could be as much as 10%. And it's usually within two use cases. One is less mature procurement organizations that may not have as many strategically sourced vendors to buy from. Or the second is larger organizations with many different locations. So this is another thing that we'll give customers visibility to. So we'd say of your 10 sites, 6 of them or 3 of them, whatever the number may be, aren't buying. And again, if you were to buy within the contract and reduce the rogue spend, you'd save Y dollars.
Interesting. I've never heard of rogue spend. I mean, obviously, I can see how that would be at that percentage. You could make a meaningful difference. Just to talk about a little bit what's going on in the chat here. It's interesting. It's because I want to ask you to highlight a couple of other ways that you're partnering with your customers to find cost savings. But there's a lot of people just chiming in that, yeah, I'm a solo entrepreneur. I'm working a corporate job and trying to get my company started as well. Like the people are bootstrapping these small businesses right now. Yes. And how do you partner? What are you finding in partnering with customers to find cost savings that they might be able to take advantage of as well?
Yeah, so that's a really good lead in, because this next idea that we thought we might share is totally relevant to sole proprietorships or very small businesses. Private label. So I'm a huge advocate of private label items for a couple of reasons, and one of which is totally off topic, but I'm going to go there for a couple of minutes. Just give me the opportunity to do this. So I am a huge fan of private label items also because they're often super innovative. Like when I had to work at home, as we all did during the pandemic, I had to outfit my home office, which, by the way, was my dining room. It is now my home office. It's been repurposed, and we used our Staples Union and Scale furniture collection. Little plug for these items, but they're like super attractive, high quality, ridiculously easy to assemble, but they also have really cool features, like they have cords on top of the desk, or the cords are in the legs of the desk, so they're hidden. They're all features that came from insights from our customers. So I digress, but I'm a product person. So private label items, super cool, innovative. Now, to get back to this point, though, about cost savings, another reason that private brands are awesome is that they're often very high quality, less expensive national brand alternatives. So this is another option, could be very good idea, very easy to attain for small businesses. And it's one that we give our customers visibility to. So it could be as easy as on an e-commerce platform, on a website, on a SKU page, if you're searching for a national brand item, there's a little tile that said, have you considered this item? And it might be a private label item for less money. Some of our larger customers will give them visibility, again, to the money that they would save if they encouraged employees to switch to private brands. It made me, Jen, made me think of one more idea, if you wouldn't mind. This is slightly more for maybe slightly larger businesses, more like small to mid-market businesses. Make sure the partner that you're working with is also demonstrating that they're capable of managing their costs. And it sounds very indirect, like a reaction to that comment could be, well, how would I know? What would I do? But it's important because then your partner will have less of an inclination or less of inflation-related costs, that burden to be passed along to customers. And so therefore the customer, again, saves money. So I'm going to give you like one more example of what a small business could look for when seeing whether or not a partner can manage cost effectively. So we recently made the decision to prompt our customers to place orders by 3 p.m. to ensure next day delivery on applicable items. And the reason that that's important is that it reduced our less than full truckload shipments. Obviously for us, it's most efficient to fill the truck fully before it goes on its way. And so it reduced costs for us. And side benefit, it also reduces overall emissions on a per shipment basis. So it's better for the environment. The point is, it was a clear, very obvious statement that we were doing things to manage our costs that also had a wonderful benefit to the environment and better service experience for our customers.
That's really interesting. I mean, in the chat as well, just seeing people talking about how what they're seeing. Somebody talking about paying suppliers upfront and getting a better price.
Yes.
As these sort of like creative solutions that are out there. There's a lot in here about inflation, but also about supply chain going on. And we had somebody chiming in about a hair care and skin company. Their ingredients have all increased, even though they manufacture in the USA. It's a huge challenge. So that you got the inflation, but you also have the supply chain of getting all these ingredients, or you're a restaurant and you're trying to manage that supply chain. So talk to us a little bit about some of the pain that small businesses are feeling there, because I think that the supply chain part has been with us since the pandemic.
Right.
Is it getting any better? Is there any light at that? Or what are you seeing in terms of the pain?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the day, and it's a constant debate about what the future might look like. So I'm going to stay away from the crystal ball here, but it's hugely impactful to small businesses. So I'm super oversimplifying this, and this audience knows what this pain is, but it's basically, what if they don't have the materials to make the products, like the example that you just mentioned? Or what happens if the couriers that they use to ship their products can't get the product to customers in the time frame that they promised? And in both cases, the business is disappointed their customers through absolutely no fault of their own, which has an impact on their financials. I'm actually thinking, Jen, of an ad campaign we did recently with this super cool entrepreneur. Her name was Sarah, and she was a glass blower, and she made this such beautiful jewelry. And our tack on it, the reason that we featured Sarah, it was around how can we help Sarah work from anywhere, because she was a one-woman show in her studio. And our part, the way we helped Sarah, is that it was sort of simple. Like we supplied her the envelopes and we printed the mailing labels for her. And while that seems super simple or basic, we had to be reliable for Sarah, because for Sarah, she's growing her small business. And if she couldn't ship out her products, that's a huge deal. Loyalty to a growing customer base. And I don't know this for a fact, but I have to believe if she couldn't ship out her product, that could be about paying her bills as well.
I love all these businesses, the glass blowing. We've got Caitlin Kelly in here with custom dried flower arrangements and wood vases. Another question on supply chain problems here, and just how you your advice on how to lessen the supply chain risk. We have one person who's commented, they're concerned that they're going to get bullied out of the market because you can't compete with big players for goods and products. So how do you lessen your supply chain risk?
Yeah, I'm feeling the pain coming from that chat. These are all very real examples. So this is another area where I would look for a reliable partner to help. And for the audience, it should feel really basic on your side. You should simply be told when you'll have the product, ideally quickly, and then you should get the product on time consistently. But it can take a really sophisticated supply chain on your partner's side to make it happen. So really, as best you can, choose wisely. So let me give the example of Staples again. I know these examples quite well. So with Staples, what our customers know or feel is that 95% of orders can be delivered next day to 90% of the US. We offer BOPIS, which means that they can get items within an hour at our stores, or we could do auto restock if you need something consistently every month, every week, whatever that time frame is. So again, it feels super basic and simple on our customer side, but on the back end, that sophistication is really important to delivering that, because to enable that, we have to have a national footprint of facilities, warehouses, a fleet that can deliver products to locations throughout the country. And we've invested significant automation and robotics in our warehouses, which means we've designed and patented and brought to life technologies specifically created to provide this very high degree of service. It means we know things like we can anticipate product needs to make sure that that product is in a facility near our customer who's ordering it that time. And our customers really care about that, because what they feel is what they need is delivered when promised next day.
I mean, you've given a couple examples. I mean, and that's one too about partnership. And you talked about that with supply chain and also with pricing, just making sure that you have the right partner so you can realize those cost savings during these inflationary times, or potentially avoid supply chain disruptions. Let's expand our horizon just a little bit and tackle one more problem that's out there. It's like this triple whammy, because there's also the world of work and labor. I mean, how can partners help there?
Yeah, it is. If you think about the challenges that small businesses are facing, to your point, it adds up. You have the backdrop of the new world of work and the future of work and what that looks like, which we spend a ton of time making sure we're smart on so we can be a good advisor to our customers. And you have inflation and supply chain disruptions. So there's a lot. Master of the obvious, when it comes to the new world of work, it's very different than it was 2 or 3 years ago, particularly when it comes to where and how people are working. So some are fully back in the office, some never left. Some are 100% remote. The majority right at this moment in time are somewhere in between a hybrid work scenario. So the question for the audience is, okay, given that, what do you do? How do you tackle that if you're a small business? For a while, Jen, what we saw over the course of the last couple of years is we were helping our customers just making sure their employees were set up so that they were productive and safe at home. It could be as simple as recommending a remote work assortment, like an ergonomic chair, so people experience less back pain, or maybe it's video conferencing technology like webcams and headsets. And we also worked with, back at this stage and ongoing, we worked with a number of large customers on stipend programs. I've also heard them called remote work enablement programs, which is a mouthful. It basically just means like giving their employees money to set up their home offices. And we were able to recommend the products, but also the administrative and the programmatic controls behind that. Now, over the last 6 months or so, maybe longer, 6 months is probably short, but it's definitely shifted to welcoming employees back to the office. And what our customers have been thinking about are the basics. So making sure the offices are clean and sanitary, restocking office supplies, filling the break room with snack packs. And we were joking last time I was chatting with you, Jen, about the days of a big communal bowl of M&Ms are over. Well, that's true. So the whole break room looks very different than it did pre-pandemic. And now we're really looking for answers with our customers on what does the future of work look like, and now what do they need to do. And there's two themes on the future of work that we've seen a lot of. One is, I heard this term yesterday and I loved it: intentional collaboration. And what that means is, like, how do you intentionally encourage your employees to collaborate together, which is an incredible reason to come back. But there's also tools that you need to equip them to do that, like conference rooms set up with the technology that enables an audience that's both in office and remote. Another is, we touched on this one time as well, Jen, the idea of hoteling, meaning not everybody has their own individual desk. They sort of land where they are for that day, but things pop up that we've never had to deal with before. Like, where do you put your personal items? We've talked about those secure lockers that you never would have thought about that in prior corporate offices where people had their own space.
Yep. I mean, it is, I like that intentional collaboration. I feel like we got to do a little bit of that today. Thank you to everybody for being so active in the chat. It was really great to hear from people. Thank you to Amy, and thank you to Staples Inc.